Welcome to the Fat Man's revisitation of the Middle-earth role-playing game system produced by Iron Crown Enterprises during the mid to late 80s, early 90s. Current is the Perils of the Sea of Rhun, or Run. I always pronounce it Run, however you want to look at it, I guess. This was, first edition was 1989. First edition. I don't think they ever came out with a second edition, but, you know, it is what it is. This is, of course, a fantasy, what they call it, ready-to-run fantasy role-playing adventure module from J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth, playable by MERP, Rollmaster. Right there. Yeah, it's a fairly typical module. It's small. Like I say over and over again, unlike a lot of modules for other game systems, pretty much every module, every supplement created for MERP is designed to fit together as pieces of a puzzle. They focus on a smaller area of the larger whole, and typically, while there are a couple exceptions, don't overlap each other. So if you put them together, you can create a much larger mosaic of the world and the sandbox, so to speak. This particular one covers an area of Middle-earth that isn't touched on other than in mention anywhere else in any of the supplements or game material. It's matter of fact, it's rarely touched on in the novels, and I don't think it ever comes up in the movies. If you don't know, the Sea of Rhun is this inland sea, a couple hundred miles to the east of Mirkwood, and the plains of Rohirrim, however you want to pronounce it. And the only point of fame would be the famed wines of Dorwinen, which lies on the northern shores of Rhun. According to this, it's an 18,000 square mile inland lake or sea, so it's fairly good size. It has quite a few human and assorted other races living in the region. A lot of them. Here it gives a nice map of it. A lot of these are either non-threatening to the men of the West, the western half of Middle-earth, or these are the tail ends of a number of tribes that at one time or another were problematic to Gondor and have long since become settled, if you will, in this particular area. You've got the dwarves of the Iron Hills to the northwest, and the huge vast plains to the east, and to the south is go far enough south, you're going to run into Mordor and more of the vast empty grass sea that covers the area. Says here, the Sea of Rhun dominates the climate of all the surrounding lands, blah, blah. Goes on to geography, politics, cultures. It's actually a melting pot. It's an interesting location. If you were wanting to run a campaign that was set in Middle-earth but wasn't dominated by the traditional, everybody knows, Elrod and Galadriel and Gondor and so on and so forth, this would be a good location to do it. You're not so far to the east that you're really scratching for backstory material. It's close enough to the western kingdoms and politics and stuff for you to still flavor it and speculate with that. The sea itself is fairly large, big enough for, in this case, an ocean-based adventure. That's what we're dealing with here. It's 3 adventures that deal with a boat as a backstop, not necessarily fighting or piracy or anything like that, but the boat gets you from here to there on a clock. Politics of the area. Surround the Dorkler Pass in the shadows at the side of the Middle-earth, the Second Age, blah, blah, blah. For the past 15 years, Dark Lord's minions have been winning positions of influence, blah, blah, blah. Typical of anywhere but to the west. You've got the first adventure being the murder on the high seas. Typical NPC entries. Like I said, these things are good additions for using in other game systems for fill-ins, for tapping, if you will. I like to do that because, like I said, it's a convenient way of reusing or revitalizing the stuff that I've got. Your party of a number of low-level adventurers start out on a vessel called the Ocean Noise. She's going on her last run for the season across the Sea of Rhun. Captain hires 3 new crew members, blah, blah, blah. We witness a murder on the high seas. So one of the passengers gets killed, and the players are tapped to kind of help figure out who did it and why. It says here the task. On this trip, the adventurers must unravel a knot of clues to discover the true murderers aboard the ship. Numerous red herrings may distract them from discovering the cult assassins until too late. Close attention to details will reveal the essential clues. Midnight raiders, silent murder, poison snakes, storms at sea should provide an exciting evening's adventure. So, get a little bit of everything going on in this one. And it's tied together to the next adventure, which is to rescue the princess. Nice layout for a lair and the details for it. Minus Spelleth. Blah, blah, blah. Powers. The task. In this scenario, the adventurers must rescue the Princess Herufara and return to the ship within 24 hours. Treacherous seas will create a difficult crossing in a longboat. Hidden cave entrance, raising tides, deadly traps. Hostile guardians will make the tower cellars difficult to reach. Upon entering Minas Tirith, quick thinking and cool planning and subterfuge will be needed to steal a princess back with priests and servants to the cult of the long night. Basically, you undiscover that there's a plot and some assassins are involved. Then you find out that some local princess has been shanghaied, and you follow them back. The clues back to their lair, the assassin's lair, which is this place, and your goal is not to wipe out the assassins, but to sneak in, grab the princess, and get out. And all doing so with the understanding that the boat that brought you here has a window of 24 hours before the current tide and the weather force them to leave, and you get left behind. Then the adventure goes off in a different direction. So, typical save the princess. Which, ironically, the princess doesn't necessarily need saving because she's a pretty tough hombre herself. There's a number of, in this hot topic environment today of social blah 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 and equal rights blah blah blah, it's interesting to note that even back in the 80s that some people didn't see the need for this BS and this hysteria that goes the way we go today. In this particular source book or module, for example, most of the key NPCs are women. And they're strong women, just so you know. And it even says it in there that the captain of the vessel could be played as a character, you know, if somebody wanted to play the character. So, then we have the third adventure, the Watch Tower Massacre. Nice big detailed layout of the watchtower itself. The task: adventurers must reach the tower of Winthrian Irer and determine the dire tidings of the Noldern foresaw, for he witnessed no less than the return of one of the Sauron's ringwraiths. His arrival at Den Hothir is but a forerunner. The rigors of winter will make additional approach the stronghold necessary. Quick one, however, adventurers do not take sufficient care. They will alert the orcs now busy ransacking the school. Okay. Basically, rumor is that some seer has gotten word to the group that they think one of the ringwraiths has reappeared. And of course, most people at this point would be going, "Oh, that's not true. They were destroyed a long time ago. The Dark Lord was dead." Blah blah blah. And one of the key tasks here is to uncover whether or not the rumor is true. And of course, going up even against the lesser of the 9 bearers or ring bearers is pretty hairy business. Ideally, you don't want to go head on with this guy and or his minions, so you're going to sneak in and get the information you need. And ironically enough, the princess that you rescued from Adventure 2 is also going along for the ride. So, just saying. Excuse the nose. Good stuff. Reusable, playable. every one of these modules with a little tweaking, a little name changing could fit in any game system. It's just a matter of, finding that we have loads of resources sitting on our shelves that just are screaming to be reused and repurposed. Just something to keep in mind, something to think about. So, Perils on the Sea of Rhun. There you go. On to the next one.